Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CMO Stories podcast, episode 21. And we are already in the second season. Second season is all about marketing, but also about, crypto, the Web3 world. And today I'm so excited to be joined by Joe Pulizzi. Hi, Joe, how are you?
Yuri, I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always happy when I have people like you on the podcast with such an amazing background. Guys, I guess you know who Joe is, but if you don't know, Joe Pulizzi is the founder of multiple startups, including content creating education site, The Tilt, the content entrepreneur event, Creator Economy Expo, and he's a best-selling author of 7 books, including Content Inc. and Epic Content Marketing, which was named a must-read business book by Fortune magazine. Joe is best known for his work in content marketing, first using the term in 2001, and then launching Content Marketing Institute and Content Marketing World event. And then in 2014, Joe, you received the Lifetime Achievement Award by the Content Council, and you successfully exited CMI in 2016, and consequently wrote an award-winning mystery novel, The Will to Die. A few other things, you also have 2 weekly podcasts, so you're a busy guy. The Motivational Content Inc. podcast and the Content News and Analysis show, The Old Marketing with Robert Rose. You have a foundation, the Orange Effect, which delivers speech therapy and technology services to over 200 children in 34 states. And you live in Ohio. So that was in a nutshell, Joe. I also know that people call you the godfather of content marketing. So that's amazing. So I'm curious. So, okay, it will be a long story, but try to keep it, in short, I would say. How did you get into content marketing? How did you become interested in content marketing?
Sure. First of all, I have to shorten my bio. That was way too long. Nobody wants to hear all that. The quick thing is I started in business-to-business publishing, and I was lucky enough to be in a department where we weren't selling the Microsofts and the Autodesks, big, large business companies, advertising or trade show exhibits. We were charged with helping them tell better stories. And that initially looked like a custom print magazine. This is back in 2000, 2001, 2002. And as Google came about and then Facebook came about and Twitter, I really just thought, oh my gosh, companies are going to have to learn how to tell better stories if they want to be found, if they want their stories to be shared, if they want to drive product and service sales, they're going to have to learn how to build an audience. How do they do that? They got to deliver consistent, relevant, valuable information to those people on a regular basis. They have to become publishers in and of themselves. And so that's when I got into it, started Content Marketing Institute, at least the idea behind it, in 2007. And then, as you said, Content Marketing rolled and wrote all the books and everything. But yeah, it was what I learned when I first started selling what became content marketing is that most marketers don't understand how to do content marketing, how to build an audience and the type of talent and the type of content that you want to deliver on a regular basis to actually build a loyal audience that ultimately wants to buy from you. So that's where I thought the opportunity was. And honestly, there still is an opportunity because, as you probably do as well, most of the marketers I talk to still don't have a clear understanding of how to do that. So here we are 20 years later, and we're still talking about the same things about content marketing being this new thing. And even though it's been done hundreds and hundreds of years, it's still pretty new for most organizations.
Exactly. It's still an actual topic. So I heard you speak, your talk at the Marketing Congress in Belgium. And indeed, you see a lot people can talk a lot about this, but they don't execute it as it should be executed. People are thinking, it's about posting on Facebook or whatever, but there is a lot more in there. And I really liked the pyramid or the hierarchy that you showed, what is important to know when it comes to content marketing. I know you have written several books about content marketing, and your latest one is Content Inc. Can you tell us a bit more about the concept and if it can be applied to all sizes of businesses?
Yeah, it actually can. So Content Inc., the second edition came out recently. I wrote the first edition in 2015, and it was a whole model of how any size company with any type of budget could build an audience and then monetize that audience. And boy, there's 7 different steps. I'm not going to go through all the steps, but
No.
some of the stuff that I talked about in Brussels, actually, the most important thing that a lot of people forget is how are you different in your storytelling? So first of all, who's your audience that you're trying to target? Be very, very specific. And then what's the thing you're going to be creating content around that is absolutely different than everything else out there? So I like to tell marketers, if you look at your content niche, can you be the leading informational expert in that niche? Like if you did the work, and if you did the blogs and you did the podcast and you did the YouTube series and you did the email newsletter, whatever you choose as your platform, could you become the leading expert in that? And most marketers laugh at that. They go, oh, no, we can't do that. I'm like, well, okay, you're not niche enough. You haven't found your content tilt, your differentiation area. So first of all, you have to figure out, okay, for that particular audience, what's the story we're telling that's different? So that's one thing. And then the second thing is pick one platform. Most marketers, they're like, okay, we're going to create content and we're going to put it all over the place. We're going to put it on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, and we're going to do blogs and podcasts and newsletter, and we're going to do a webinar series and an event. And that's all fine. It's all good. But if you look at how a media company is built and how a media company develops a loyal audience, they choose one platform for the most part to be amazing at. If you look at a Red Bull Media House, Red Bull Media House didn't start with a million videos like they have now. They started with a print magazine called the Red Bulletin in 2005. If you look at the Financial Times, they started with just a newspaper to a particular group of audience. You know, whatever that is. Is it a blog? Is it a YouTube series? It is a TikTok channel. I don't really care what necessarily it is, but you have to focus on being excellent at that one thing and not being mediocre at everything. So that's the kind of core we talk about. And then you mentioned the subscriber hierarchy that I talked about in Brussels as well. And ultimately, even though we might start on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, ultimately we want to probably focus on email, membership. I know you're big into Web3 like I am, crypto as well, something where you have some control over that connection, that first party data, and you're not giving it all away to these social platforms. And that's where a lot of marketers get in trouble, because we spend so much money and time building these channels and what we think is our audience on these other networks, and we don't control them. We don't control that algorithm. We have no say in it. We could get booted off the platform at any time, and that's very unfortunate. So if we do decide for whatever reason that we're going to start with something that's not our platform, so you don't start on email and you don't start on a blog or a podcast, you start on LinkedIn, let's say, which is fine. You've got to move that audience at some point from rented land to owned property in the form of an email newsletter, a Web3 project, a membership program of some kind where you get their data and you have the control to communicate with that person on a regular basis.
Exactly. I also have my own blog, I have my podcast. The thing is that people like to share their articles directly on LinkedIn because then they think they have more reach because LinkedIn like this. But if I put it on my blog and I share it, okay, LinkedIn doesn't really like that if you put links, but it's on my property. So it stays there, and LinkedIn is not my only channel. I have different channels.
Sure.
And then I really see if it's really value, then still the post gets engagement.
And exactly. And so if anybody listening to this, they're probably saying, Joe, we got all these free social channels. Why don't we use them? My recommendation would be you have whatever that owned channel is, whether it's a blog or it is an email newsletter, whatever that thing is that you're developing audience with, and then focus on one social channel that you can be amazing at. LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, whatever the case is, and get great at that. And that way, those two can work really, really well together, where you have your own property and then your rented network where your audience is, and then you want to move that audience over to that own property. And it's unfortunate. And we for some reason, we've thought that social media sharing was easy 10 years ago when we started doing it. It's incredibly difficult, and most brands and businesses are terrible at it. So just figure out one where you can do something original and build an audience on somebody else's platform and then move it over.
Right, yeah. And for me also, I choose the thing that gives me energy, that doesn't take me a lot of effort, that I can do a lot. So like I love podcasting. So for me, that's my main channel, which I use to put them on other like distribution channels, like for instance, social media. You mentioned already Web3. Which had some, of course, some advantages when it comes to owning your data, owning your stuff. But how did you get into Web3, and what do you like about Web3 that you didn't mention yet?
So I started to get into Web3 in 2020 during the pandemic, and what I thought. So I'm finishing writing Content Inc. The second version of it, and I'm going through it, and I'm looking at what's going on with NFTs and social tokens. And I thought, well, here's an opportunity for a creator to share ownership. So they can own something, some kind of a token project, and then they can share ownership and rewards with an audience. And I actually thought, Yuri, I'm like, this could be the thing. This could be the top of the subscriber hierarchy, even above email. And I still sort of believe that. I think we're still very, very early stages, but I'm like, okay, there's something here. And so I got into a couple. So we launched our own social token, which was Tiltcoin. We launched that on the Rally Network. We launched our own NFT program, which was our Creator Economy Expo, never ending tickets, which basically is a forever ticket as part of our annual event, Creator Economy Expo, held every May. And I'm like, okay, can we create something that people can own and we can never take away from them? But at the same time, can we build a community of these people that could be stronger than anything else we've ever seen before? And actually you can. I mean, we have 60 holders of our never ending ticket. And I would tell you straight out that that's the best community that we've ever put together, because they feel like they have more of a say than they do just by buying a membership or being a part of our Discord group or whatever. They actually feel like they have something that's bigger, stronger, and they're adding to whatever we're trying to build. And so now we're getting together with regular meetings, and they want to give everything. They want to write articles. They want to share articles. They're going to go to the event. I mean, this is an amazing community. So I know that there's something here when we just tried it with our little test project. So I think there's something there. Of course, as we're recording this, we're in the middle of crypto winter, and there's been a lot of negativity around Web3, which right now might be the best time ever to build your Web3 project, because I guess my recommendation would be, and you probably have a take on this too, don't focus on the NFT project or the, let's say, collectability aspect of it. Focus on what it could do. What's the utility behind it? Does it give your audience access to something? Because what you're trying to do is create super fans. So how can you take your 100 super fans and actually give them an experience that you can't get anywhere else? So you can slice off a little bit of value that you have for your organization and give it to that audience, and they can get that in the piece of it, in some kind of a token. So what's the utility? What's the access? What are you going to give to them that they can only get through purchasing that token? And then put that community together. And I think there's something there. We're starting to see some really good projects out there. And I think for the future, I think in the next year or two, you're going to see some amazing things happen from large brands and from small companies that we'll be surprised about.
Yeah, no, exactly what you are saying about the bear market. It's people look at that Web3, okay, the crypto, there is a lot of negative noise, negative stories that you hear. And on the top of the market, of course, you have all these positive stories. So actually, that's not what when people talk to me, I say, that's not what I'm doing. I'm looking at these utilities at Web3, not really at crypto. Web3 is a lot of more than only crypto. So I look at metaverse experiences, at NFTs, and then actually, Mark Schaefer, it's also friend of you. I'm one of the marketeers that is writing a chapter in the new book that will come out next year. And my chapter will be around Web3. And that's what I'm talking about. It's about utilities for an NFT project. So you want to have a project that people, if they buy it, okay, they invest in it. But even if the project goes to zero, if there is still utilities, people have value in their hands. So it's about value, about utilities, about the community building, as you are saying. Do you see other challenges, Joe, that you see for people, businesses trying to use Web3 for their content marketing or for their community?
Well, the biggest challenge right now is the on-ramp for your customers, for your users. When we launched our social token, and let's see, it was February of 2021, we used Rally, a third-party service, because we're like, this could be the easiest way to get people to get the token. It was just an email. They didn't have to have a digital wallet, so there was no technology in the way. Perfect. And it worked out great, except for the fact that Rally is a third-party service, just like there would be a LinkedIn or a Twitter. There's an entity, centralized entity, that was in charge of all these things. And even though our token is still working, everybody's a little bit concerned because there is this third party in the way. But we felt we needed to have that because it does take some time for people to understand this. So that's anybody listening to this is, oh, I want to do an NFT project, or I want to do social tokens. That's great if you have a good use case to do it, but people are going to shy away right off the bat because they don't know the negativity of it. There is a learning curve that goes along with it. In 2 years, we're not going to have this problem. For example, I'm not in the prediction business, but I do make predictions on occasion. If Apple comes along or Google comes along and they integrate a digital wallet in with the phones, could just think of how easy. There's some downside to that, but just think of how easy that will help people to onboard what's going on. If Apple takes like a MetaMask wallet and just integrates it into what they're doing with Apple Pay already, I could see something like that happen, and then it'll be seamless. But right now there is a problem, even with our community. I feel our community at the Tilt very educated as to what's going on, but still, I would say 90% of them still have problems with the technology behind it. So that is the number one issue right now, and we'll get over it. It's just like the Netscape browser back in the late 90s.
Exactly.
It was very clunky. Well, it's not clunky anymore, right? So we'll get there, but we're just not there yet.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm also on your Tilt Discord, and Discord it's for some people, even marketers, it's like, how does this thing even work, to get on it? So even they have sometimes problems. And I agree with you. If one of these big brands, like for instance, Facebook, changed their name to Meta, this was for people a reason to look at metaverse. What is this actually? One of the triggers. On the other side, like these NFT projects or these tokens that you're talking about, perhaps you need to use another language, to have more people on board. So when you started your community, did you really talk about tokens, or did you call it like a subscription or an access? How did you use this problem?
We called it coin, Tilt coin. We talked about it being a currency that if you do certain things, you could get certain things. So it's more of and the way that we tried to position it was a membership program. So for example, just so everybody knows how it worked, if you signed up for the Tilt newsletter, you immediately received Tilt coin. And then if you referred the newsletter to your friends, you received more Tilt coin. And as you received Tilt coin, you got into different levels of our membership, which we activated on a Discord. So if you had 5 Tilt coin, you got access to a different level of conversation, and you got an exclusive piece of content every month. If you had 20 Tilt coin, you got access to me 24/7 into the VIP group, all sorts of things. So basically, it was a membership program. We set it up that way, and it was very, very successful. And we're actually revamping the whole program right now. And in January, we're going to come out with some new things. I feel really good about it. But from that standpoint, it worked. If we just said, oh, if you have this, you get this. That's it. Just simplify it. Yeah, that's all we're telling people. Don't. And this is really important too. A lot of people, because we're in this bear market of crypto, they always associate everything with the price of whatever the token is. And I think we did a pretty good job of it, but I think a lot of communities out there focus so much on the price. Like, oh, you get this token and you're going to make money. No, you're not. That is not you can't even talk that way. This is against securities regulations. All you want to do is say, if you have the token, you get something. You get access to something. You get to go to an event. You get a piece of content. And if you just focused on what you're trying to do, so to your point, if we can just separate the whole token thing, the token is the technology, right? On the blockchain, that's just tech. And we focus so much on the technology. Let's just focus on the membership program or the event or whatever you're going to do with it. And you bring it together with this technology that's a token.
Right. Another exciting technology that I already mentioned are these metaverses, Joe. I don't know if you are also looking into that, and because I'm curious, what are your thoughts on content marketing in the metaverse? Do you already have an opinion about that?
Of course, Facebook has taken on metaverse as sort of their own, like it or not. And if you think of what that means, is that us, are three-dimensional beings inside of a community, whatever. I actually think it's just to me, it's an immersive online community, much like what's going on with Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft. I mean, my kids are very involved in Minecraft. I can see that firsthand. They're sort of living in this world. My recommendation is to have marketers please experiment, get involved in some of these communities, but don't go and say we're going to launch a metaverse community. Please, I don't think that is a good move right now. I think right now, figure out the technology, just like with AI, right? ChatGPT, check it out. You should be on the cutting edge of understanding what this technology does, but don't say we're going to do a metaverse project. What I want to do is you focus on what's the problem you're trying to solve for. Can you do it in the metaverse? That's the secondary question. So focus on the problem first. It's the same thing with Web3 and tokenization. What's the business challenge I'm trying to solve for? Oh, I'm trying to create a unique content experience for my customers in this way and have them part of this particular community. Okay, well, can we do that with a token? Can we do that in the metaverse? So that's sort of how I look at it. I mean, even I know that, Mark Schaefer's doing some things with his Rise community. It's very exciting. Mitch Jackson does some in the legal, where they are, you sort of are inside the community and sort of a Second Life type of a feel. And that's great. But a lot of marketers aren't there yet. So I would take a step back from the technology and focus on the problem first. And then you can see if the tech can solve that problem for you.
Right. Would that also be an advice for businesses that are now, let's say, Web2, that have a good business, but are looking at opportunities within Web3 to just look at what is the real benefit that it could bring to my business? And not like, back in the days with social media that people thought, I need to be on social media. But for what purpose? So what you just come to say, is it about, okay, what is really the objective and how can this Web3 technology support with that? Is that the main advice?
My main advice for anyone that's not doing a project in Web3 right now is to get active in a Web3 community. That is the number one. Like, find a project. This could be an artist. It could be a musician. There's a lot of musicians doing music NFTs right now. It could be something like our community where you get involved, and that's where a lot of our community who's now gotten involved in Web3, their own Web3 projects, they started with ours and just being a part of ours and how we're doing it and whatever. And then they learn and then they go ahead and do something. So if you're not in a Web3 community and not experimenting with it yet, you shouldn't even be thinking about launching anything. You have to actually be a part of it first and figure out what the heck is going on, and don't be seduced by, Web3 and I've got to do it. No, you don't have to do it. Okay, so let's say that you then do that. Okay, you're a part of a couple communities, you're understanding tokens, you have a digital wallet, those types of things you already have. Then I would look at your business, your customer base, and you say, okay, what can we do for our super fans? What can we do for the best of the best of the best customers? Is there something that we can provide to them? That's what I would focus on and say, okay, well, could this be a token project? Could it be a Web3 project of some kind to bring a community of 50 to 100 people together? If you look at what Kevin Rose is doing with his Proof project, or what Gary Vaynerchuk has done with VFriends, those types of things on a smaller scale are great. You say, okay, if you have like Kevin Rose's Proof project, if you have this token, okay, you get invited to all these meetings in person and over the web. Okay, great. I get that. You get first launch of any new projects that we launch out, you get the alpha version. So you get an NFT of some new project we're launching. So you can start to look at, okay, well, what can you do? Could you have early pieces of your products or services that you can launch out to this community first? Is it a research group? Are you going to have them be part of your content program? Like, for example, Mark's a really good, again, Mark's doing a lot of really good things where he said, okay, well, you're part of my community, then you can write with my next book. You can, so there's lots of things that you can do to get them involved. And so how do you unearth those super fans? You can sometimes do that through a token project. So that would be my recommendation, to look at something like that.
Right. So make your feet wet. Just look at how does it work, learn from that, and before you start to doing yourself. So actually, yes, I have an NFT linked to my podcast, by the way, because that's also for my super fans. They need to have a password, and they can have it. And the password, by the way, is uncut. So people listening to this episode, if you go to cmo-stories.uncut.fm, use the password uncut, then you can have one of my 25 founder NFTs. So that said, we just talked about Web3, Joe, but are there other trends that you see happening in the content marketing landscape this year, the coming years, that you would like to mention?
Yeah, the big trend that we're starting to see right now is the idea of content acquisitions. And this can affect if you're a small business or if you are a large brand. Basically what that means is the content creators that are out there. And so I spend all my day in the creator economy. And the creator economy is this idea that there's these individual creators out there that are building full-time businesses. And we've never seen as many as we're seeing right now, because anybody can be a creator. The technology is available. When I first started in the creator economy business in 2000, it was very difficult. We were talking mostly print magazines. Web was just coming on. If you wanted to get somebody to subscribe to your email newsletter, it was very difficult and wonky to do that. Well, today it's very easy. Anyone can create a YouTube channel or TikTok or email newsletter, and it's all pretty seamless. So we're seeing that happen. And a lot of these creators are looking to sell their businesses. So if you are a small business and you said, oh, I want to start a blog, I want to start a podcast, I want to start an email newsletter, you do have the option for build or buy. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking this is a foreign concept, but it's happening in real time right now. You could say, okay, is there a creator, before I spend 18 to 24 months building a podcast and actually getting an audience to follow me, is there a podcast out there that's already doing what we want to do? Is there some focusing on our content niche, our tilt, targeting our audience, doing the same kind? Maybe you could purchase that podcast. So that is happening right now. We're seeing a lot of podcast networks go on. The same thing with email newsletters, the same thing with blogs out there. And we're seeing this is more than influencers. These are influencers that are actually building a business. So there's two opportunities. If you are a small business and you create something like that, you could actually sell it. And if you are a small or a large business and you want to acquire a piece of content or acquire a content brand, if you will, it is more prevalent than it's ever been before. So we're seeing companies like Salesforce, like HubSpot, Arrow Electronics, large electronics distribution company. They've decided in a lot of cases, and we're not just going to build, we're going to buy. So if you take HubSpot, for example, the marketing automation company, they've had no secret out there. They want to be one of the largest media companies out there in the sales and marketing space. And they're going to get there through their own stuff, creating their own blogs, their own podcasts, their own newsletters, but they're also going to do it through buying up podcasts and newsletters like The Hustle and blogs as well. So this is going to be a really weird time in the next 2 years where you're going to see a lot of acquisitions happen. Where normally you just see media companies doing this, but now you're going to see brands that sell products and services buy these little media companies as well.
That's a really interesting trend, Joe. And this also, encourages people like me, to continue building, making content, building a blog, creating a podcast, creating a channel, for instance, for video. So that was really interesting. So, Joe, if people want to connect with you, if they would have a look at all your books, where would you like to send them to?
Boy, it's pretty. So I'm at Joe Pulizzi on everything. So JoePulizzi. So you can go to joepulizzi.com and see all the books. If you want to connect with me on social, it's at Joe Pulizzi everywhere on every social channel. And then our big thing right now, the big business, is The Tilt. So that's our content creation newsletter. So if you're interested in what we're talking about, you can sign up to our newsletter, free newsletter at thetilt.com. And then we also have, as we talked about, our big show every May, Creator Economy Expo, where we talk about how individual creators can build full-time content businesses. So I'm looking forward to that as well in May.
Right. I will for sure have a look at that, Joe. The newsletter I got just before we started the interview, I was reading that one. So guys, if you got some value out of this show, be sure to look at the newsletter, be sure at Joe's books, be sure to share this episode with your friends and with your colleagues. If you are not subscribed yet to the CMO Stories podcast, please do that. And as you know, as always, there will be an article and show notes linked to this podcast, which you can find on web3.net, Joe, which is actually in Dutch, Web3, web3.net. So
Nice.
Thanks so much, Joe. It's great. It was great to have you.
Thanks, Yuri. I really appreciate it.
So thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. And of course, I would like to see you back for the next podcast episode. Bye.